Moneyball.com.au is Australia's #1 fantasy destination for a reason. I absolutely love it. It is so easy to use and super fun. You pick your starting 9 with a $60,000 salary cap and you're good to go. To genuinely support the locker room, sign up for free today at moneyball.com.au. What's up, guys? I'm here with Wade Graham, Cronulla enforcer. He used to be a half, and now he's literally one of the most aggressive kind of second rows in the game. How you been, bro? And what's going on?
Yeah, been pretty good, mate. Just knocking out the season now. You know how it is at the start of the year. Just trying to find that rhythm in the start of the year and, get the season really started in a positive way. But we're going all right there at the moment. So big game last Monday against Melbourne, got the win and, looking forward to Tigers this week.
And so what's the feeling like? You've been with Cronulla through that massive roller coaster and you're finally in a position where you've got this gun side, you've strung together a few wins, you're looking like you're a real threat this year, if not having one of the best youngest sides in the comp. Like when you look at your backline especially, you've got Bird, Holmes, Barber back at his best, and then you look at your forwards, you've got Fafita, Gal, yourself, Lewis. I mean, your squad is looking pretty strong after all those hard years. What's it like now to finally have that kind of peace and quiet of being able to focus on your footy and play good footy? What's it like?
Yeah, it's good. I think last year was a really important year for us, obviously coming off the back of all the ASADA stuff and that, and then we finally had a resolution in that at the end of 2014, 13 to 14.
Yep.
And then we had a couple of big signings in Mickey Ennis coming across. And last year we started the year 0-4, but then we ended up having a real strong back, finish to the year and almost pushed for a top four spot. And I think as a group, after we were able to put all that stuff finally to the side, and not just as a group, as a club, we were able to move forward. So, we put in that real good season in the bank last year and then able to come back fresh this pre-season, really set some goals and really set some, standards where we want to go as a team. It's been a real great feeling around the club that probably hasn't been there in the past. And, we feel as if we're building for something, and we know that if we can get our stuff in order, then hopefully we'll be there at the right time of the year.
And is it because a lot of fans that don't get to see the day in day out stuff, kind of explain the difference of the happiness around the place compared to the dark times? For example, when you're struggling and you lose like 4 on the trot, everyone's down, everyone sucks, no one wants to be at training. Whereas now for you guys, you'd be stoked to be there, finally through all the bullshit. What's it like comparing it to the times where things were tough and you were kind of like, fuck, are we ever going to get out of this bullshit?
Well, it's a roller coaster. Anyone who's played the game and been a part of that knows it is a roller coaster. I think just the fact that you put so much effort into every week, like your preparation, the amount of time that goes into trying to get the best out of yourself and as an individual and as a team to put in that good performance and get the result. When you don't get the result, and you know how much you put into it, it's hard to take. And every player goes through it, and that's a roller coaster. Where areas on the flip side, when you do or put the hard work in and you do come up with the result, and then that you build on and you get a couple more results, the feeling around the club and the boys, there's nothing that beats it. And I think that's the big attraction about the game. Everyone loves it when you're up the top, but it is a roller coaster. It's just trying to stay as high, stay in the high times more than the low times.
100%. And so take us back to when you were at your Penrith days. Were you started as a half, like you were a bigger half, but you were a half, weren't you?
Yeah.
And were you always a half? Were you always a good footy player? Was it always, that was what you were going to be, or you were forward, or were you, average footy player and you had to work with it? What kind of footy player were you growing up?
Yeah, I was probably always a forward in the juniors. I always used to play in the middle of the field, probably a lock, like an older style lock with, used to play in the fours, but I used to be able to play with the ball a little bit. And then the way I got started playing in the halves, actually, as you get to that age where you start playing Harold Matts and SG Ball, I was big enough, and I played Harold Matts upper year, my first year, so I was big enough to play upper year, but I wasn't big enough to play in the forward, so I ended up playing in the halves. And that's where it all started, pretty much. The coach moved me. I used to play lock back in club footy, and then he said, I'll give you a crack at 5'8", and then because I had that probably the ball playing ability and the communication side of things when I was younger, I ended up staying in the halves and I just really stayed there going through the grades. And then a lot of the times I'd skip age groups. I'd go from a year up Harold Matts to, a year up in the flag, and then I'd be playing I think I played flag when I was like 16 or 17, and then
Oh wow!
so I was always just
Yep.
in the halves, and more so probably with my communication more than anything else. And then as I just got a bit older, then the body matured, I thickened up a bit, and I just found myself going back into the forwards.
And so, do you reckon that is a crucial growing part of your game? You know, you learnt so much skills, and I guess you played first grade as a half. To have that vision of the game as a forward now, you know, do you reckon that's helped your game a lot as you've grown? You know, having the experience as a half.
I definitely do, because I don't think I'd probably play as a traditional back rower does. I sit on the left edge at Cronulla. I've played there ever since I have been put into the back row, but I'm not the type of back rower who just sits there and runs that down line the whole game. You know, I'll look for I look to count numbers a lot of the time. A lot of the time I like to get early ball and try and play with my centre and my fullback. So even though I've transitioned into the back row, it's not as if I've just changed the way I play. I still sort of play similar to as I did when I was a 5'8". I was never really the sharp ball player. Anyway, I was more of a runner as a 5'8".
Okay,
so it hasn't overly changed too much. And you know, Flano's, when I first made the change, Flano was really open to the idea of, you know, not having to be that run of the mill back row, not having to hit that down line all the time. Of course, there's going to be a time when the team needs me to do that job, but other than that, Flano sort of just lets me go out there and plays footy.
And it's kind of like having, I guess, a third half in that front line. You know, you can kind of call a play that way with the more experience to the counting numbers, as you said. You can have you've got that second thread of a ball player outside of the 6 or the 7, you know what I mean? So I guess that 7 would have given you, playing 7 would have given you that advantage of learning the game from that position.
Yeah.
So it would have helped you count numbers as well. Because a lot of, outside forwards wouldn't have had that experience of counting numbers and hitting on, wherever. And
well, apart from our team structures and our our set plays and that we practice during the week and we try to execute in the game, I don't really go into games with an idea of what I'm going to do. I sort of just tend to get out there and see how the game pans out and just keep my eyes up and play footy like that. So it's probably a bit of a throwback.
Yeah.
But Flano's given me that freedom at Cronulla to just play it as I see, and some games, especially down the left hand side, we can get a lot of joy down the left edge, and other games when it's on the right hand side. So Flano gives us a lot of freedom. It's been good.
And so also, speaking of Flano, you guys, when the drama happened, you stuck behind him more than any other playing group I've ever seen. Like you were clear to the public and to everyone else that you wanted him back at the club. And it's been, that confidence has been repaid. Look at you guys now. His coaching ability clearly has shined through. He's playing really well. You're getting a lot of wins under your belt without all the drama. Was there ever a conversation from him, not a thank you, but I guess when he did come back, did he acknowledge the fact of how much you did support him? There was no...
I don't think there was any conversation, but
just knew.
He certainly knows, and that goes to... It's a two-way street. Probably like Flano knows how much that we appreciate him there, and it's the same. He has that relationship back with the players too. Okay. He actually genuinely cares about us as people, not just as players. And it's easy to see if you ever are flying the wall and you come down around Shark Park and you're washed away with Flano coaches, you can just see how passionate he is about the club and about his players. And as a player, that's all you really want, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. And I guess. But it was just, from the outside looking in, the amount of open vocal support he got from the players was pretty impressive, man. Because when situations like that happen, it usually divides a club. Yeah. And yet it seemed like with you guys, it kind of no one rolled. You know what I mean? Like no one was trying to look out for themselves. No one was.
Well, I think through that whole period, just the sheer magnitude of it and how big a thing it was, we didn't really have anyone else. So it was up. In saying it galvanised us, it was probably we were the only ones there for each other. So there was no other option, mate. Like it was that big and it was that massive from the outside. There was so many. It felt to us as players and as a club, there was so many different people coming in to have a shot at us. That the only people who really did support you, of course, apart from your family and friends outside of footy, but within the footy community, it was only us.
It felt like it was just you.
It's just us, So, in saying that's probably the real reason behind it, because it just there was no other option. It was just us.
Yep.
We had to look after each other, and you know, throughout that period, I think for the initial part, I think it was 2013. The initial part, we actually kept playing good footy, and we ended up making a run into the finals.
Yeah.
And it was just we were just pretty much feeding off that. It was just us against everyone else, pretty much. But it came to a head the next year when Flano had his suspension, and then obviously we weren't playing the best footy. We didn't go. Some injuries hit as well, and then what it's like around when the pressure comes on when you're not winning games and not performing. It's just sort of imploded that 2014 season. Yeah.
And you've got on top of that, you've got the fact that that's hanging over your head.
Yeah.
And so that kind of it magnifies everything else that's going on.
Yeah, it just snowballed in the 2014, and then like I said, it come to a head at the end of 2014. And when we finally got that resolution, it was such a big move, and it was like a line in the sand. And it was finally, everyone was able to move on from then. And we're in a million times better headspace, and as a club, a space now. So it's much better now. There
was a time there where people were saying that Cronulla as a club may no longer exist. Like that's how hectic it was. People forget how intense it was. Yeah,
it was, mate. Things were coming up weekly. You never knew what was going on. Like the whole time for 2 seasons, we actually never knew what was going on. You literally never knew what was going on. You'd find out information from the media, and then you'd go and have a meeting with lawyers, and then you'd do this and you'd do that, and no one knew what was going on. The club didn't know what was going on. The NRL didn't know what was going on. ASADA didn't know what was going on. So
there was no So people outside looking in would have thought, okay, Cronulla has a position on this. They have all the information. This is how they feel about it. This is how the NRL feels about it, and this is how ASADA feels about it. It's just a matter of time before 3 parties work that out. But the reality you're saying here is that you really just had no idea what was happening.
Well, it was just trying to find an outcome, really, and which way you just had always new information coming in about this was going to happen, or that was going to happen, or don't worry about this is going to happen. It was just
that would have been
pretty much living week to week, and it happened for a fair bit. So finally, after dragging on for so long, and we find we'll be able to put that line in the sand and get a resolution. That was, it was the best thing to happen for probably the players and the club, where we could, draw that line in the sand. We went away. We came back for the pre-season of heading into 2015, and we're finally able to move forward as people and as a club. And here we are today.
Yeah, and so was there ever a time when you're like, this is too much? Like, I just can't handle this. I don't want to be like. I can only imagine how much pressure it would have been to actually have been in your shoes and with your mates and having this hanging over your head, and then you've got in the media that the Sharks may no longer be a club. And then you're thinking, well, do I get, would you be ever thinking, am I going to get paid? Am I going to have a footy club to play next year? Was it that intense, or did you always know that, no, things are going to be okay, it's just time?
It was that intense. You just never knew what was around the corner. You're seriously just living week to week, and you didn't know. The easiest part was
playing.
Yeah. The training during the week was hard because there'd always be media there, and the media would never be about the game on the weekend or the game coming. It would always be about what's the latest on the going ons. So there was a few times where boys wouldn't come to training, and boys didn't train for weeks, or they just needed the time out because it was a lot. And lucky we had the support of each other, and the club was really understanding. Of course, it had to be understanding because it was just trying to manage that situation as best everyone could, and it was something that no one had ever faced before.
Ever in Australian
sport. So it was really uncharted territory, and it was just a take it as it comes process, and it went like that for a long time. But
did you run scenarios through your head, as in where you're like, all right, if the Sharks don't pull through this and they fall through, do I continue playing footy? Is there other clubs I would go to? Where was your head at with that, or you just like, I'm going to ride this until the death? I'm always going to be. You know what I mean? Were you thinking about the future, or?
Well, it was always hard to think about the future because you just didn't know where you were at. Where you're at, where we thought we were at would always change. So one day we'd be here, and then we'd be fine, and then the next minute, we're looking at 2-year bans, and then the next minute, the NRL is saying this and that, or then it's just different. It was just different things every so you never actually knew where you were at.
Yep.
And, but. Yeah, I wouldn't wish it on anyone to go through it again, and like I said, it was a really tough time. It was a really tough period of, football was not even in the head. It was just sort of like us as people just trying to get through it and figure ourselves out and figure out what was best and, just trying to stay healthy and live normal. But
how can you?
It was just a tough period.
Yep.
And like I said, I wouldn't wish it on anyone. I think, if you had your time over again, some things might have been done differently, but what's been has been, and just glad that there was finally that line drawn in the sand, and we could all move on, because it just hung around for too long, and it needed to be resolved.
Yep.
And look at it, it's just still going. It's still going at ASADA now. The stuff it's still going. And
it's crazy.
It's crazy. It just takes away too much energy. So I'm glad that we finally did get a resolution, and for me personally, ever since that line was drawn, then I haven't looked back.
Yeah, just haven't looked back. Because there was times when you were getting in trouble, not in trouble, but the media was you wore thongs or something to the meeting, and the media smashed you for that.
I had a guy sit out in front of my house for 2 weeks, taking the same photo of me walking out of my house every day. I was like, mate, what are you doing?
Really?
You got
2 weeks?
I said, you got the same photo of me walking out every
single day.
I said,
wow,
it's
man.
Just, it was
see, a lot of people don't see that.
They
They didn't see the guy sitting out in front of your house for 2 weeks. They didn't see that.
Yeah.
And they didn't see every single day getting to train and getting asked the same question.
Yeah.
And you can't. It's not like you could be like, look, man, can you just fuck off? Because then that's in the media.
Yeah,
you get done for blowing up about the media.
It was crazy.
I'm so glad that
it's
done.
Period, mate.
I'm so glad it's done, and yous are playing well now. It would suck if that had knocked you back for more years. It would have sucked if, let's say, you were still struggling with form now. Whereas it looks like it's brought you closer as a player group, because no other playing group can say they've been through that together.
Yeah.
And the things that would have tested, like loyalty and all that kind of stuff, would have been really fucking tested, especially in situations like that, because they would have been leaning on certain guys to whatever in certain parts of the club. So. Yeah, fuck, man.
It's great.
Would have been crazy.
Looking back now, it's just crazy.
Don't know how you did it. Just looking back.
Just crazy, man.
So take it back to yourself personally. You signed with Penrith Panthers. You were playing under Elliott.
Yep.
And you played half, and you moved to the Sharks because you wanted to play regular first grade. But when you were at the Panthers, well, that's what it said anyway. So that could be wrong.
Yeah.
Because it says you played 22 games or something like that before you left.
Well, I debuted in 08. I was just a kid. I was 17, and then I played 8 games straight, and I tore my medial, but it was late in the year, so I didn't actually make it back before the end of the season.
Okay.
And then I went to train the whole pre-season, and then the following year, I missed the first 2 games. I played on the 20s, and then I played 22 straight.
Yeah, straight.
And everything was going sweet, going fine at Penrith, but then. In the following year, in a trial match, I was starting the halves with Luke Walsh, and I broke my collarbone through my AC. I had to get surgery, so I missed 12 weeks.
Yep.
And just in that 12 weeks, the club had signed Travis Burns as well. And then there was a year that Penrith went on the run that they actually finished second in the competition. So by the time I came back from injury, the boys were just playing too well, and I couldn't force my way back into the team. And as it was. Because a lot of us had come through together at the same time, there was myself, Lachlan Coote, Timmy Grant, Sam McKendry, guys like Michael Jennings, and that were a few years before us. We were all coming off contract at the same time. And it just so happened that, how the cap works, you can't keep everyone. When everyone has to be given new first grade contracts, not contracts that they were on previously.
Not fringe ones,
that just didn't work. And at the time, I think the big ones were Janko and Frankie Pritchard. They were the 2 coming off contract, and
they were massive then too.
Yeah, they were massive. Janko was just breaking the origin, and Frankie was obviously
one of the
playing
best
for New
forwards in the
Zealand.
game.
So it just so happened that's how the game worked, and there wasn't enough room for me. So I had the options. There was a couple of options on the table, but I chose Cronulla.
Cronulla is living in Cronulla compared to living in Penrith. Holy fuck, it's like fucking. Sorry, all you Penrith people, but Penrith is a shithole. So take us back to your debut anyway. Debuting at 17 years old. A lot of kids don't do that these days. I can't remember. There's been a few in the last year or so, but when that first under-20s comp kind of came in, there was a few years there where young guys were struggling to debut at that, because they weren't getting games of footy?
I think they've changed the rule now. You actually have to be 18 before you can debut, I think.
Okay, all right. Yep.
I think someone was close to debuting maybe last year when I was still 17, but they weren't allowed because they had to wait till they were 18. Yeah, maybe. It might
I think it was at the Knights, one of the... I think it was at the Knights.
Yeah, so that's the new rule that's come in. So I remember I'd been training with first grade. In the pre-season beforehand, I'd come up because I'd be training with the 20s. It was the first year done 20s.
Yep.
And you know how it's like when you do scrimmage against the first grade. So they bring a couple of guys in to fill in extra numbers so you can make two teams.
And there's always 120s that just goes skits and tries to stop the first graders.
100%.
Was that you?
That wasn't me. That was definitely not me. But yeah, so I'd had a bit of exposure with the boys, and then just halfway through the year, I was about round 8 or round 9, Matty gave me a call and asked me to start coming along to training full time and just getting amongst the boys. And then I remember he called me into his office one day and he said, "You're in this week, you're playing."
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And so you hadn't had a pre-season with first grade? You were just...
I hadn't. I was with the 20s, yeah. So I'd just been back and forth. And Matty came in. Me and Lockie Coote, we pretty much did everything together growing up through the grade. We were training the same day, and it was early. It was pretty early in the week. Oh, actually, it was late in the week. It was about a Thursday, and I think the game was a Saturday or a Sunday.
Fuck, still, that's pretty late to know.
And,
usually, like Tuesday.
Yeah, and then I walked out of Matty's office, and Cootie see me face, and he knew straight away. He said, "You're playing, aren't you?" I said, "Yeah, I'm playing."
It's 17 years old.
So
man.
I was pretty stoked. As you know, when you're that age, you have no fear of anything. We were going well in under 20s. I was playing good footy in under 20s, and you know, I was ready to take on the world then.
Yeah.
But
did you debut at half?
Yeah, I debuted at half.
Yep.
And Luke Lawless was me 5'8", so
oh really?
It was quite a odd mix. And I remember it was supposed to be a secret.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Actually, you know what? It was a Friday night game because I went to school the day of the game.
So you were still at school?
I was still at school, yeah. So it was a Friday night. It was a Friday night game, and
did you just walk in like this?
No, well, it was supposed to be a secret.
Oh, okay.
And me being naive, thinking that there were secrets in rugby league, I said I'll go to school and I'll just go about my normal day because I didn't want to sit at home all day thinking about the game because I was so young. I would have been so nervous.
Yep.
But I get to school and it's on the back page of the paper. I'm there on the back page of the paper saying schoolboy debuting. So I just took about 2 steps into the A block, turned around and walked back out, rang my mum and come pick me up. I just instantly got nervous.
Was everyone just... So did people see you and start walking towards you and you were like, fuck?
No one really seen me. I just walked in, and as I was walking past, we used to walk into A block and you'd go past the teacher's staff room, and there was the papers there, and then there I was smack bang in the middle of on the back page of the paper. So I was like, turned around, walked straight out of school, rang my mum and said, "Mum, you got to come get me." I can't.
That would have been a spin out, bro. Like, because you never would have been in the paper before that, or like if you had, especially not back page.
Yeah, not. It was just little
and then you
things
just
here
look across there, and your friggin' head's on the back page of the paper. Were you just like, oh, fuck?
Yeah. Well, then the nerves hit me then straight away, and then as I got home, I was sitting because I hadn't even told really any of my close mates because
you were trying to do the secret thing.
The secret thing, but then once it was out, I ended up getting about probably 20 or 30 of my mates, and then from school they all came straight from school because it was just at Homebush, so they all caught the train out and had a fair bit of crew there up in the stands at Homebush there.
Far out. That's sick, man. Were you layering up the next week at school? You've got to layer up a little bit.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. Walk in. Well, actually, after that, I didn't know the next week what was going on because I said to Matty after the game, we went to recovery.
Yep.
And because he was telling me week by week to come in and train or not to train, so I'd ever train 20s.
Well, really? So you weren't even that cemented in the first grade?
Yeah, no, I wasn't even in the squad that much. So I usually Matty would come and see me early in the week and say, "Mate, just train with us this week," and it'd be like, "Yeah, sweet, no worries, I would." Yep. And then, so the week of the debut was just the same thing. He said, "Just come train with us," and he told me I was playing, and I was like, "Oh yeah, sweet, no worries." Played, and then after the recovery, it was a Saturday. I said, what am I doing next week? Am I back to training Monday or am I back to school? He said, "No, mate, you're staying with us." So I started training full time from that time on, and I just went to school one day a week.
So you were when he said come and train with us originally? Did you just miss some days of school every now and then?
I went to Hill Sports, which was a sports school anyway. So they took it really well. They understood.
Go to school.
Yeah, they understood that I wasn't just training on my own in a park. It was training in a.
Did you have to go to school after training?
Well, in the early start, I just used to manage it, and if I miss a day, I just missed a day. My school was really sweet with it. But then once I started playing full time,
there's not much you can do.
Back then at Penrith, we used to have the set day off. Wednesday every day was our day off.
Yep.
So I'd go to school Wednesday, and I'd organise with my teachers just to go and see them individually.
Yep.
And catch up on my work. So they were really good. They were really understanding, and school one day a week, and getting the train.
You're laughing.
Yeah, I remember.
And getting matches as well.
Yeah, matches. Yeah. I remember one of the best memories I ever had to this day would be. We were the week after I debuted.
Yeah.
We were out there on a Monday or Tuesday training, and we just went for a light run around the oval. And I looked around, and Petro Sivanasiva was running there, Tony Pulatua, Reese Wesser, and I'm thinking in my head, mate, I could be at school right now, but look, I'm running around with these guys, like childhood heroes. It was one of the best feelings I've ever had in my life.
That's crazy. Like, I mean, I try to take myself back to what kind of person I was in year 12 of high school, and to imagine running around with guys like you said would be because you'd only seen them from the outside in. They would be these heroes to you, and then you're like,
well, 100%. To be a Penrith kid, growing up in Penrith, I supported Penrith when they won the comp in 2003. I was 13. I was on the hill every week.
Yeah.
So to be up there, and especially to be able to play with guys like Tony Pulatua and Reese, who killed it that year, Lukey Lewis, I'm lucky enough to play a lot now with.
Yep.
But just to be in with them guys it was crazy.
That would have been the biggest head spin,
crazy,
man. Yeah. And then when you go, was it weird going back to school and like you're in your school kit and you're like, this is weird. Like
it was something that you probably you learn a lot of lessons really quick, don't you? Because you're going into a workplace with grown men with families. And their expectation of you is you perform every week as a man, not as a kid. They're not looking at you as a kid when you're out there.
There's no excuses.
Yeah, when you're playing in the 80 minutes on the weekend, they're not looking over at you as a kid. They're looking at you as a man who needs to do your job. So, it did force me to grow up quite quick. But I wouldn't change it for the world. It was the best thing ever.
Man,
it's a dream come true,
mate. That is like to play footy when you're still at school is so intense. It would have been so cool. So, you made your debut at 17 years old, and then the next year you cemented your spot. You said you played 22 games straight.
Yeah.
And then the year after that, you were this young gun, and Lachlan Coote as well was this young gun. You were these two young guys that were killing it. Then the next year, Travis Byrne and
Luke Walsh
were your halves.
Yeah.
And so you went to Cronulla. So when you went to Cronulla, the decision obviously was because cap reasons and stuff like that. But was it reinvigorating for you? Like, did you feel like I finally got a chance to have my spot in first grade? Because you'd have been 20 then?
Yeah, I was 19, turning 20 that season.
Moneyball.com.au is Australia's #1 fantasy destination for a reason. I absolutely love it. It is so easy to use and super fun. You pick your starting 9 with a $60,000 salary cap and you're good to go. To genuinely support the locker room, sign up for free today at moneyball.com.au.
It was good because it was the first time I got looked different at, because at Penrith, when I was coming through the grades, there was a core group of kids all coming through at the same time. Yeah. And you always knew that we were the sort of kids coming up. Like these were the ones to keep the eyes up. So when I first got eventually got the first grade, even after 3 seasons, you were still looked at as a kid coming through, like Penrith kid coming through. These are the kids.
Yep.
Whereas when I went to Cronulla, I was actually bought as a player to come in and play first grade and to as an established player. I wasn't, It was just neither saying that how I was looked at Penrith was bad. It was just a different perception.
Yeah, 100%.
How people in the organisation, looked at you, and it was great. It was a tough year the first year, but then we had some great guys around. Obviously, Gow, who's had a massive influence on my career, and Jeremy Smith. He was massive too. He was there that year when I first came. Had a couple of seasons with him, and he's. The way he goes about things at training and the way he approaches games, it's really similar to how I get around it, and I learned a lot of him too. So it was a great change, and when it was hard to move at first, but then once you do move and you realise that there's not much difference between teams are still teams and clubs are still clubs, and it's all this footy is still footy. Yep. And it didn't take me long to
adjust to it.
Yeah, adjust.
And also, Cronulla is a much better place to live than Penrith. Even though you're a Penrith boy, sorry about that.
Mate. Penrith boy, hard enough.
I apologise to you for that. Whoever put you in that situation, I apologise. Nah. I'm a Gold Coast boy, so I've been blessed with living on the Gold Coast my whole life. What do you think about Penrith's new, facilities? That's cool that they've got that.
Yeah, it's going to be great. The amount of, because it's going to be all sports, isn't it? I think not just
I
league.
think so.
It's going to be all sports.
Yeah, it has
because
to be.
Out there growing up, that's all you have sport really.
Yeah.
That's pretty much everything you do. You go to school and you have your mates and you have that. But when you're a kid, it's sport, whether it's league, union, cricket, the girls with netball or touch.
Yep.
Like if you go out to St Mary's on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night, and you see the touch fields at the Kingsway, they have 4 or 5 fields set up, and they're full of people just playing touch footy. Or now it'd be Oz tag. It's just what you do out there. And
is it do you think that is because it's a rougher area, or not a rougher area, but like there's a big area in Penrith that has people that aren't as they don't have many other things to do other than sport to keep them from doing stupid things?
It's just pretty much circumstances of where you are. It's not as if you're Cronulla and you have a beach, so you don't have surfing as an option. It's just different things, different ways of where you grow up and what's available to you. And it's just like looking back now, there was no other thing to do. It was just sport. That's all we had on our mind. When I went home from school, it'd be out the back with the mates, riding the bike, and then you'd be playing footy or playing cricket. So for them to have a centre of excellence out there, when it's finished, the way it's the vision they have for it, it's going to be awesome
100%.
for them to be available. There's so many kids out there and so many potential elite athletes. It's going to be great for them. For the area.
It'll also, I don't know if the same thing happened for you when you were growing up, but a lot of kids that don't have as much, it will be good for them to be able to have that as a place to keep them from, maybe doing something stupid on the street, keep them from, growing up, running around doing stupid shit. They've got this centre of excellence that they can go to and, be a part of.
Yeah, definitely. And it gives them something to aim for. It gives them a goal to strive for, a dream. If they want to get up there and do that, it definitely gives them something that's readily available. Like it's there, you can see it, it's visible.
Yep.
And no doubt they'll have influence and stories of people who have done it. It'll give them a track to follow, a path to follow.
And with yourself, was growing up tough for you? Was it normal? Was it? Did you struggle? Did footy keep you off the? You know what I mean? What was it like for you growing up?
No, I had a great childhood. Grew up in a real good family. My mum and dad are still together. I have 3 sisters. They're also out of Blacktown. 3
sisters. Ooh, I got 2 sisters, bro. When they were teenagers, holy shit.
I wasn't too bad. So me and my best mate have been best mates since kindergarten. We met in kindergarten at the same school, sick. Same kindergarten, same primary school, same high school.
Yep.
We're still best mates to this day. He had 4 sisters, so I was getting off easy.
Oh,
but
4 sisters.
He had 4. I had 3. And we sort of just found each other and we never left. But no, mate, I had it good. I never wanted for anything. My mum and dad worked hard. They still to this day they both work hard. But yeah, had it great. Never wanted for anything. Always, had enough friends around the neighbourhood to, get by in our free time, and always had the sport on the weekend, and yeah, it was good.
And so, where did this, aggressive streak come from? You're an aggressive player. You like to, you like to put shots on. You like to come out of the line. Where do you reckon that came from? Some guys it comes from having a rough childhood. Some guys it just comes from competitiveness, and I'm assuming that might be it. But yeah, where did it come from?
I just think that's just a game. That's the game we play. Probably playing out in Penrith in the juniors. It's certainly a big feature. The not intimidation factor, but it is a hard.
It is a rougher area.
It is a hard district, Penrith Junior District. So there's all good teams, and there's always players who are challenging you. And I just think it's just the way that the game is. Rugby league is a tough game. It's it's a collision sport, and that's always been in the fabric of the game, the aggressiveness. And but in saying that, Gow's a good example because he's competitive at everything. I'm talking everything. We go on the training field. Training field and do anything. He's competitive to the utmost, to the degree. And whereas I'm not like that at training. I don't. I'm not too fussed about that, or there's something like playing cards. I like to win, but if I lose, it's not the end of the world. Like, I'm not like it's just probably when I play footy and when I'm serious.
So it's a switch kind of thing. Like you're like, all right, now I'm in this zone. I'm gonna fucking.
When it's footy time, it's footy time. It's just probably comes down to my old man actually. The way he taught me to play the game, and the way he showed me how to play the game, and his expectations, and and obviously that's transferred into me now and my expectations of myself.
And so, can you recall a time or a game where you remember a very physical battle with your opposing, number? Do you do that in your own mind? Do you have a battle with another number, or do you just play against whoever?
I just play. I just play. When I get out there, I just play. The game to me is still the game. It's still a game of footy.
Yep.
Probably it's never changed. That the 80 minutes, for all that changes in the outside of footy, from the media to whatever goes on at the NRL, for all the change on the outside, the footy's still the same. The 80 minutes is still the same. You go out there with your teammates, and to me, you rip in as hard as you can for 80 minutes.
Yep.
And then when you walk off, it's over.
Yep.
It's over. So for me, it's just about playing the game. That's how I've always played the game, how I was taught to play the game. And and hopefully that's, if I ever have a son of my own, that's how I'll be teaching him how to play the game if he wants to.
And were you, disappointed when the shoulder charge was taken out, because you're an aggressive guy, or you think that there are other ways to...
I don't think... obviously, it's a safety thing. It's hard to not be supportive of a safety thing.
True.
When they're always, even the new concussion thing, it's all about our welfare. So you can't sort of say in one hand, you want to do this, you want to do this, you want to play our welfare, and then go against when they actually are trying to...
Very true.
Help each other, help. But I think...
that's a good point.
I've never been one the shoulder charge really anyway.
Yep.
I think it's just my tackle technique has been fine. Most times when I do try and come up with something, it's when someone's not like a blindside shot or get them, when they're not expecting it, or when the pass is too late. So, but I think you can still be aggressive without the shoulder charge.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I probably I wouldn't have taken it out, the shoulder charge. I would have just said, if you shoulder charge and you hit the head, then the penalty is massive. So that's the risk you run. If you want to shoulder charge someone and it goes wrong, well then you're going to be sitting down for a while. But if you pull it off, well then kudos.
I agree. I think that they should have just gone with if you hit the head, you're getting
That's it. You're into, if you pull it off and something goes wrong, well then you're in some trouble. But if you pull off a fair legal shot and it doesn't hit the head, well then you come up with a play, because it is a big play. It can change games if you force an error,
and it just lifts the team.
But we're talking about bygones here. They're not going to change it.
They're changing. So, going to actual footy, you going from half to lock. Do you ever miss half at all, or do you enjoy sorry, not lock. That's second row. Do you enjoy second row better than half, or
Well, it's a lot simpler.
Yeah,
it's definitely a lot simpler. I remember when the transition first happened. It was when the Sharks signed Toddy Carney.
Yep.
And Jeff Robson as well came across. And originally the plan was me and Toddy actually started the season together.
Oh, okay.
He was playing halfback and I was playing 5'8".
That wouldn't be a bad combination.
And we lost both games.
Yep.
One was in Golden Point against the Tigers, and then one was, I think, at home against Newcastle.
Yep.
And we'll probably, with me and Toddy, the way we were playing, we're probably both playing really reactively and not sort of structured, and probably the team wasn't getting the direction they needed from both of us.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
So then with someone like Jeff Robson there, who came in, great communicator,
guides the team,
very steady, and he's really solid and gets all the boys around. He lets all the boys know their job. Flano sort of, he said, listen, he called me first before he made the change, and he said, listen, this is the way we're going to go. We're going to go with Robbo in the half, Todd in the 5'8". You're going to go on the bench. And then you're going to go on in the forward somewhere, and then just play, play whatever's needed really, and just play as an extra ball player, as an extra
utility
runner, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And at the time, I said to Flano, no worries. He's always been upfront with me and honest with me, and I was, whatever the team needed, I was willing to do. And then sort of just throughout that year, coming off the bench, Gow was actually starting. He'd start on the left edge, and then move into the middle as the change. And I'd go onto the left edge, and then just throughout that year, I just sort of found my niche there on the left, and I haven't really moved since.
And so going forward for yourself, looking at things like Origin, is that something that is in your mind consciously, like you want to play Origin and as soon as possible, or is it like you would like to wait and see what happens? Because I think that you're ready for Origin. I think that you should be in that side. But for yourself, what do you think personally?
I definitely love to play.
Yeah.
And I definitely think, if the opportunity arose, that I'd be ready. And and I'd like to test myself at that level. You'd never really know, I suppose, how you're gonna go at that level until you get the opportunity to do it. So there've been some great back rows for the Blues over the last couple of years. And Hoffy and Bo Scott really nailing them spots there, and just over the last couple of years, probably you've seen the young guys coming in Boyd Cordner and Joshy Jackson. So hopefully, if I'm playing at a high enough level and consistently playing at that level, that if the opportunity does arise, then I'd love to play, mate. I'd love to play.
And is that something that, as a kid, you envisioned? Playing for Blues and
definitely. Every passionate rugby league supporter watches the Wednesday night Origins when they're a kid. I still remember watching Freddie play and Joey's comeback. Obviously, all New South Wales highlights.
Terrible.
The game, Gerd scored about 30 points. So, I'd definitely love to play, mate. Definitely.
And so, who is someone in footy that you kind of look to as a second rower or a forward that, other than Gal, obviously, because he's inspired your career quite a lot. But who's another forward outside of Cronulla that you kind of look to and you respect as one of the best forwards in the game?
Oh, it's a tough one. There's so many good players.
100%.
I remember when I first changed into the back row, and I was trying to sort of work out what sort of player to balance up the hard stuff and the defence, and then balance the ball playing. I used to watch Glenn Stewart a lot over in Manly. The Gift. The Gift. Mate, he had that real good connection with obviously his brother. But with Jamie Lyon on the outside, where
good ball playing, but
where
also
he's really tough and really uncompromising in defence. But then he'd have that finesse when he needed to. He could play the traditional back row. He could go into different styles of play within the whole 80 minutes. So that was someone I looked at a lot when I first moved into back row to say, hang on a minute, I could sort of play that style of football. But mate, in today's game, to single out one forward, mate, everyone's a good player.
There's always got every team has two really good. I mean, you look at the Broncos, you got Gillette, you got Glenn, you got.
Mate, everyone's a good player these days. There's no one who's just. It's just the game's come so far. The training's come so far. The football IQ of everyone has evened out. Everyone's a good player. Everyone's a good player. You got to be on every week because there might be a kid come up and play against us next week who I've never heard of, and all of a sudden he comes out and he's the next superstar.
Very true.
It's just everyone's a good player.
And so, what for yourself going forward? Cronulla, going forward. Have you guys spoken about how well you are going at the moment? And is finals footy and top four for you guys an expectation?
Definitely finals footy. I think for us is the expectation. Everyone wants to play in the grand final. Everyone talks about the grand final. I think the biggest key is you need to be in the semis. You need to you need to be in the semis. That's just But if you're playing in the semis and you give yourself an opportunity, the competition I think is so close. And on any given day, any team can beat any team. So you just need to be. The season's a marathon, so you need to make sure you set yourself up throughout the season to be in the right, the right frame. When you get at the right time of the season, to really give yourself a good opportunity to make that run. Because obviously you need to be playing your best footy at that time of the year. You need to be, a bit of luck and got to be healthy and. But throughout the year, it's such a marathon, week in, week out, playing that level. It's just about getting there, getting yourself to the finals in a good enough shape, I think, to give yourself an opportunity to.
All right. So, what is the craziest memory you've had in your career? What's something you look back on, whether it be someone playing through a crazy injury or someone doing a crazy feat? What's something you remember as a crazy memory? Because, for example, I've got this. I'll tell you after it because
I got this. Anthony Tupou. In 2000 and what year was it? It wasn't 14. It was 2013, the year when all the drama was going on. But we ended up playing decent footy, and we beat North Queensland in the in the semi, the 7 tackles game. We won, and we had Manly the next week.
The 7 tackle game.
Yeah, the 7 tackle game. And then during the game, Toos must have hurt his knee. Anthony Tupou is one of the toughest blokes you ever meet. He hurt his knee in the game, and Toops never complains about anything at all. And following the next week, headed in we're playing Manly in a semi, and he didn't train all that much. He got his knee strapped every day, and he just went about his business. And you sort of knew, because he wasn't training as much, you knew there was something must have been a little bit wrong, because he never complains, never does anything wrong. Played the next week against Manly. We lost, and then at the end of the game, went and had a beer and that, and then Toop said, I've got to go get scans. I've done my ACL. He played for a week and trained for a week with his ACL. He knew he had his ACL done, but just the opportunity to play in the finals, he knows how hard like the team work and what everyone went through. He just kept it to himself, and he trained and played for a week
with an ACL done.
With the ACL done, when he got surgery the next week, after we got beaten in the semi-final, just because that's how he's one of the toughest people.
Mate, that's nearly impossible.
He had it strapped up, and then following everything that happened after he got the scans, and all the boys realised how serious he knew. He knew he had done it too. He knew, because he had done it before in the past. He knew he had done it. He just was strapping his knee up and just playing.
That is the craziest thing I've ever heard. Yeah. That is literally the craziest thing I've ever heard in my life when it comes to footy.
Mate, Toops is honestly one of the toughest blokes you ever meet. He would not complain about anything.
ACL,
mate. ACL.
AC. That's a friggin' whole year Gonski's.
ACL, mate.
Trained and played. And did he play okay?
Yeah, he did his job. Yeah, 100%.
Mate, that is intense.
Not just he's one of the best people you ever meet too.
Really?
As a person, yeah.
Far out.
One of the most, best people you ever meet.
Man, because that's completely different. Because I was reminded of this stupid story. I'll just say it because it's random, and it just came to my mind. The other day, probably 3 weeks ago, it's fucking so embarrassing. About 3 or 4 weeks ago, I was just getting some graphic designs made for Bloke in the Bar, the show, and just thinking of crazy stories. I was getting Bloke in the Bar graphics done, and I had a mate that I used to work with because I was doing my electrician apprenticeship. I had a mate I used to work with called Greenie, and so he's like an artist or whatever, and he makes draw stuff and whatever. So I was like, all right, well, I'll give him a call and he can draw it for me, and I'll pay him a couple $100 for the logo of Bloke in a Bar. Anyway, so I go through my phone and I see Greenie, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's Greenie. I press, I ring him and it's ringing, and I'm just like, yeah, I get to talk to Greenie. Haven't spoken to him for a few months. Like I'm killing it now. Like I got my own show and I do this all the time. I get on the phone and like someone says like hello, and I'm like, what the fuck is up, motherfucker? Woo! And just like layering up like a wanker, and there's silence. And I'm like, Greenie would normally respond to that. He'd be like, fuck off or whatever. And I'm like, hello? And then I hear this, hello? And it's not Greenie's voice. And I'm like, oh my God. I was like, is this Paul Green? And he goes, yeah. Paul Green, North Queensland's coach that just won the 2016 Premiership, has just answered the phone because I used to play with him at the Broncos when he was a reserve grade coach.
Oh, that's hilarious.
And so I've called him up going, what the fuck is up, motherfucker? He's like, Denon? And I'm like, oh man, I'm so sorry. And I explained the story to him. I thought I was calling my mate Greenie. He was a legend about it. He just started laughing, and he was like, it's all good. It's all good. How you been, mate? What have you been up to? Rah, rah. And I was like,
should he sit him down and get him in the locker?
I should get him in the locker room, but he was a legend about it. He made a joke about it. Understood that it was I hung up the phone. I go to my missus. I just called the Premiership winning coach and called him a motherfucker and acted like a fuckwit. Oh my God.
That's good. That is a good one.
Oh, so yeah, Paul Green, I apologise. I congratulated you for the because funny thing is, I left his team mid-year when I was at the Broncos because a few things didn't come through contract-wise with the Broncos, but he didn't know about it, and he thought I was just leaving his side and brushing his team in the middle of the year, and I never got the opportunity to explain to him what had really happened. And so on the phone call, I was like, look, we never got the chance to speak about this. Yeah, I brought it up. I was like, about the time I left, look, this is why I left. I didn't want to leave. I felt bad. I regret it because they went on to win the Premiership that year.
Yeah.
So anyway, I made a complete fucking fool.
You got to get him on in the show then in a few weeks. He's got to be on your show,
mate. Oh, so embarrassing. But anyway, yeah. So a few more things. You're Indigenous. How important is that to you in your heritage? How important is it, as a man?
Yeah, well, it's something that's only just come across recently with growing up. My old man left home at quite a young age. He was
Yep.
like 11 or 12 when he came down to Sydney, lived with his older brothers.
Yep.
And then he never actually went back home. So there was a complete disconnect there.
Okay.
He never went back home. His father passed quite young when he was quite young.
Yep.
So it's only something like we weren't. I wasn't raised on that, or even knowing or anything like that. It was just through him. We used to sort of wouldn't say joke around, but he used to just say it, and it was like, oh yeah, sweet. But we really knew nothing about it. And then the time came, I just as I got older, started playing footy, and the All Stars concept came around.
Yep.
And we got to the stage a couple of years ago where it was close to being selected for the actual All Stars team.
Yeah.
And then I said to Darren Rooney, the footy manager at the time, I said, I don't think I can play for the All Stars because I'm pretty sure that I'm part Indigenous.
Yeah, yeah.
And then he goes, oh, what do you mean? And I said, yeah, well, it's on my father's side. We've never really looked into it because it's never really been something that he's been too interested in or anything. And that sort of set the ball rolling. So then I went home and asked Dad a few questions.
Yep.
And he had some stuff to say, and then he did a little bit of research on his own.
Yeah.
And he came back to me with his grandparents' names.
Okay.
And then during this time, there was contact made with me, with Dean Witters and Mark the Weird, who work with NRO and the Indigenous fairs, and then they came down and met with me at Shark Park just after a training session one day, and I ran them through my story, and I gave them my names of my grandparents.
Yep.
They'd been my great grandparents, and then and they left, and we had a couple more discussions, and that's really where it went from. And for me, it's only a new thing. It's only been happening probably for the last, discovering for about the last 6 months. So it's been something quite different.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Is it? I guess not shocking, but is it do you have this kind of connection to it now? Like, because you realise it's there?
The way I have explained it is, it's like when you don't have something, you never really know what you're missing.
Yeah.
But then when you are given it and you have it there in front of you and you look at that, then you sort of do realise, hang on a minute, like I was missing that. So it's been quite a interesting journey, not just for myself, but it's a family thing too. My sisters and especially my old man and my dad's brothers too, because they were in the same boat. They all come down to Sydney quite young, so it's an ongoing thing, and it's been good. It's quite a personal thing, and it's been good for my family to we've had some open discussions, and some real interesting stuff's come up.
And I guess also would it be interesting for you to find out about the culture and getting a really in-depth about your own culture and getting that kind of experience?
Just about myself, really, ourselves. Before, it's sort of not. I really didn't think twice about anything. Really, to me, I was who I was. It didn't matter
where you're from.
Anything. It didn't matter. It was, I had my mum and my dad. I had my sisters. I had my friends and my family, and that was it. It wasn't until this came up, and it was through the opportunity of the All Stars concept, because, truthfully, without the All Stars concept and the chance of a football game, I might have never even pursued it, thought to pursue it. It would have just been something that sat there. But through the concept and through footy, it gave me the opportunity to work closely with Dean Witters and Mark the Weird, and I'm on a journey now to help discover myself and things for my family. It's been good.
And I guess the ironic thing is that's what the Indigenous All-Star Game is all about.
Yeah, well,
is about bringing the Indigenous culture to the forefront to educate everyone about how beautiful it is.
Definitely. Before they actually they picked the team, because I wasn't on the ballots. It was only through working with Dino and Mark that they knew we were just working through the process for me to identify and then and worry about the footy. The footy was the second thing, and it was just worried about me finding out my story and identifying. And then it just so happened that I'd Laurie picked us to play in the game, which is sweet because I love playing footy. And then I was really keen to get up we went to Stradbroke Island the 2 days before the footy camp actually started. So it was good to get up there and sit with guys like GI and the older senior boys, Dane Gagai and stuff, and to learn about some things and to hear how passionate they are and to realise I'm a part of something else now, like more than football. So
the oldest culture in the world.
Yeah, the week is outstanding for the game, and exactly like you said, it just brings it to the fore. And I think the biggest thing is how the All-Stars, not the Indigenous team, talk about it, but the All-Stars talk about the way they approach the game and the way they approach the week, and that's because that's what it's about. It's about bringing the two teams together. Really, the game of footy is a game of footy, and of course, there's going to be passion and people want to win because it's competition. But the week's about bringing both teams together and really. Being as one and just celebrating the culture. So it was a great experience for me. So hopefully, touch wood, there'll be some more opportunities in the future to do it.
Yeah, I mean it's cool. It's so cool that the purpose of the Indigenous round is working.
Yeah,
it's
has
evidence.
Definitely
works.
Yeah.
It works. So, man, it's been awesome. Catch you over time, so I apologise about that. But
all good, mate.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on, man. It's been really, really cool to hear about your journey and just how good you've been playing over the last few years and all the kind of. I hope you get the rep honours that you will. It'll happen, bro. I reckon it'll happen sooner rather than later. But thanks for coming on, and it's been really interesting.
Yeah, thanks for having us, man. I've really been keen to actually come on. I've seen some of the other ones before. I think it's a great platform you've set up here for players and ex-players and coaches to sit down and do this sort of stuff. It's great. I think you're really onto something, mate. You're doing well.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. That's what it's all about, man. It's about giving people the opportunity to know these players as who they are without any agenda. And that's and the footy community has been unbelievable. When like yourself coming down, we'd never met before. Message you on Insta, so of course come down. So credit to you. So thanks for coming on, bro. It's been awesome.
Thanks for having us, mate.
Cheers.
Beautiful, brother.
Moneyball.com.au is Australia's #1 fantasy destination for a reason. I absolutely love it. It is so easy to use and super fun. You pick your starting 9 with a $60,000 salary cap and you're good to go. To genuinely support the locker room, sign up for free today at moneyball.com.au.